The next topic I'd like to cover is the plight of our pollinators. That's our bees. And in the pollinators, why do they need our help? Well, it's well recognised that one of the main problems for the pollinating species is that they're beginning to become homeless. Habitat destruction has a huge effect on our population, our bee population, and our pollinator population. Hunger. Basically, the decline in wildflowers has led to a significant drop in the numbers of our pollinating species. And sickness, this varroa mite or varroa destructor, has had a huge effect on them as well. And the pesticide application is also poisoning a lot of our pollinator species. And there's been a lot of studies that's done, and there's a clear link between climate change and the changing environment that's also affecting our pollinator species. We have 1 bee species in Ireland, but we have 20 bumblebee species, 77 solitary bee species, which gives us 97 wild bee species in the country. And it's deemed that somewhere in and around 40% of them are under threat currently. So it is a significant challenge. The cost financially. In Ireland, our pollinators are deemed to be worth approximately annually to the exchequer 53 million. On a global scale, it's estimated to be 157 billion. So they have a significant cost, but they contribute a significant cost. And it's said that out of 100 crops provide 90% of the world's food. And out of them 100 crops, 71 are pollinated by our bees. So what's been done about this? Well, there's been a call to action, and it's called the Pollinator Plan 2015 to 2020. And it's supported by, I think, about 186 different organisations. And it's been developed by the National Biodiversity Data Collection Centre. And as I said, it's called the All Ireland Pollinator Plan 2015 to 2020. And I'm going to focus in on one small aspect of that pollinator plan, and it's the bit that you can do as community groups in assisting helping the decline of our pollinating species. So if you want to help the All Ireland Pollinator Plan, it's important to think about providing 3 things: food, shelter, and safety. And you can see from this slide here, previous speaker had something to say to it, but do not cut. It's a managed verge, and this signage like this is very, very important. Identify and protect existing areas that are good for pollinators. They provide both food and shelter. And you can see by the slide here on the left-hand side, that is one on the right is mowed on a regular basis, where the one on the left is just simply not mowed. And Cotton Stafford Johnson recently was involved in a project, and he described areas like this as green concrete. And I thought it was a great way to describe something. Green concrete. This is rich in biodiversity, it's rich in our wildflower species, and an ideal location for the pollinator species. So flowering hedgerows, and oftentimes it's the instinct of community groups when they go in and try and develop an area, is to eradicate what's already there. Consider what's there, and consider managing it. And hedgerows, flowering hedgerows, provide a very good food source. Patches of wildflowers like this on waste ground, absolutely perfect as well. Small wild areas like bramble and ivy also provide a good food source. And existing earth banks provide shelter. So when you're considering doing this, consider what's already there. And don't go towards the limit. Oftentimes, or as I said, our instinct is to go and start clearing off these areas. But actually the reality is we're often clearing areas off areas that are very good for pollinators. Dry stone walls also provide a very good shelter source for natural bee species. So this is all about food and shelter. Again, we're providing food. And a very simple way to provide food is reduce the frequency of mowing of grass fields. A very simple thing. Reduce mowing and aim to create wildflower meadows. Create a short flowering 6-week meadow. And let the dandelions bloom. Cut as normal, but first cut is not before April. This gives dandelions a chance to flower, but not to set seed. So simple, and they're a huge food source for them. And in areas like this, oftentimes our instinct is to go in and mow this 3/4 of an acre or 4 acres, whatever it be. But often simple pedestrian tracks mow through them. Very, 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 very effective. Pollinator-friendly planting. Again, a very, very good food source. Clover lawn. Clover lawn areas where grass is replaced with a permanent clover mix. Plant a mix of pollinator-friendly trees and shrubs to flower from spring to autumn. And plant a mix of pollinator-friendly perennials to flower from spring to autumn as well. So it's about getting the mix right, being informed and putting the right thing in. Annual flowers for pollinators ensure in annual flowers for pollinators ensure a component of the annual planting is with pollinator-friendly annual plants. Most annual bedding displays that we do, or traditionally do, they don't have anything in it for a pollinator species. So think about it. And I have in the information packs that you got today some information that supports you in developing either perennial or annual planting mixes. Plant a native wildflower mix, source seed in Ireland, and ensure that you plant pollinator-friendly species. Through a lot of the supermarkets now, you can buy what's deemed to be wildflower seed mixes. But my experience is that they're often sourced outside the country, and they don't have, and they're not really of any significant environmental value. So make sure that they're sourced within the country. Provide wild pollinator nesting habitats. This again provides shelter. Hedgerows, earth banks, and what they call hotels. Hedgerows for bumblebee nesting, earth banks and dry stone walls for solitary bee nesting species, and drill holes in wooden fence posts for solitary bee nesting. This type of thing, very simple. Incorporate small number of solitary bee nest boxes as well. Anywhere you're doing a project, that's always good too. And again, safety is a huge concern. Reduce the use of pesticides. Identify, and the simplest way to do these is identify streets or areas where your group is willing to take the responsibility for manual weed control. In other words, get the hold. Most pesticide use is along edging or trees, or bases of trees that mowers can't access. And these are areas that are simply easy to do with a little bit of extra effort. Identify small areas of south-facing edging that could not be sprayed to provide solitary bee nesting species. That's what they like, solitary bee nesting species, like south-facing banks or south-facing borders. Follow manufacturers' guidelines. When we start to put, when they decide to put out chemical, and if it's the road you're going, we're not against it, but think about it and think about the effects that it's going to have. But certainly, our instinct oftentimes is to over-apply. So certainly consider the manufacturer's guidelines. A good tip is to spot treat rather than blanket spray. By blanket spraying, you're just destroying everything. Spot treat is more effective and certainly more efficient, and certainly considers a pollinator species. And spray in dry conditions with low speed, with the low wind speed, to prevent drifting. Drifting is a huge effect as well. And spray after sunset to avoid direct contact of pollinators with chemicals. So spray late in the evening when the bee species are less active. Raise public awareness of pollinators with the local area. Promote the pollinator plan to local businesses. Encourage actions or sponsorship. Very simple. Put up signage explaining the importance of pollinators and what's being done locally to support the pollinator plan. Facilitate or deliver training workshops on pollinators and how to protect them. And one very good tip is the pollinator, the All Ireland Pollinator Plan 2015 to 2020. So look to your local schools and youth groups and educate them in respect of pollinators and the importance of it. And this is a very good document, the All Ireland Pollinator, the junior version of it. And I think if we get that joined up thinking, coming together to create a network of diverse, flower-rich, pollinator-friendly habitats, the local authorities doing the bit that they should be doing, businesses doing the bit that they can do, religious properties doing the bit, schools, residents associations, tidy towns community. That's when we begin to work together and address the issues that are associated with the decline of our pollinator species. And I suppose it's the same thing, everybody working together and creating that partnership. Very, 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 very effective.